So you're ready to take the plunge, huh? Thinking about renting in Hong Kong.
It's a pretty incredible city.
Yeah, but the rental scene there,
Can be a bit of a wild ride sometimes.
it can be a little intimidating.
Especially if you're not familiar with how things work there.
Yeah, especially if you're coming in from somewhere else.
Exactly.
We've got your articles, some online resources, even a few of your own notes, it looks like.
Yeah, let's dive in.
And today we are going deep on Hong Kong rentals.
All right.
Everything from the legal stuff to insider tips
Sounds good.
to help you find the perfect place.
All right, so what's really interesting about the Hong Kong rental market is that it's very structured and regulated,
Okay.
which can feel a bit overwhelming at first,
Yeah.
but it actually offers a good level of protection
Yeah.
for both tenants and landlords once you understand the system.
Okay, so that's good to know that there's at least some structure.
Yeah.
Because I think when people think about Hong Kong, they think about just like this crazy, dense,
Yeah.
Wild West.
Suburban environment.
It's not quite like that.
Uh-huh.
There are rules in place.
So let's start with the essentials.
Okay.
Visas.
Yes.
You absolutely need a valid visa to rent in Hong Kong. No getting around that one.
That's right.
And you have to make sure that it aligns with how long you're planning to stay there.
Yeah, and what's really important for people to understand is that your visa status
Okay.
can actually influence a landlord's decision to rent to you.
Mm.
They may be hesitant to offer you a lease if your visa is about to expire.
Right, because they want someone who's going to be there
For the long haul.
for a while. Yeah, okay, so that makes sense.
Makes sense.
What about the tenancy agreement?
Tenancy agreement.
Is that where things start to get really official?
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Okay.
The tenancy agreement is a legally binding contract that covers everything.
Everything.
Yeah. The rent amount, how long the lease lasts,
Oh, wow.
who's responsible for what, and so much more.
Sounds pretty important.
It's crucial.
In Hong Kong, these agreements are typically for a 2-year period.
2 years is that standard.
It's pretty standard.
Wow.
I know that might sound like a long commitment.
That's a huge commitment.
It is, but it's just the way things are done there.
Why 2 years is that?
It's interesting, actually. It stems from historical factors. Way back when Hong Kong was a British colony,
Okay.
these long-term leases, they provided stability during a time of uncertainty.
Right.
It was a way to encourage investment and development.
That makes sense.
And interestingly enough, that practice is just carried on,
Oh, wow.
even though things are obviously much more stable now.
Wow. So it's like a holdover from back in the day.
Kind of a legacy thing.
Wow. I had no idea it went back that far.
Yeah, it's a bit of a quirk.
Okay. So 2 years is the norm, but that doesn't mean you're totally locked in, right?
Exactly.
There's got to be some.
There are ways out.
Okay.
Modern tenancy agreements include what are called break clauses,
Okay.
which offer a bit more flexibility. They typically allow you to terminate the lease early,
Got it.
usually after the first year, with a certain amount of notice, like 2 to 3 months.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
So even though it's a 2-year agreement,
You have an out.
there's a potential escape hatch.
Escape hatch, exactly.
Okay, good to know. But before we even get to that,
Sure.
let's talk about some of those key clauses that we need to really pay attention to in the agreement itself.
Absolutely.
Like, what are the things that we should be looking for?
So the rent amount in the payment schedule, those are obviously crucial.
Yeah.
You want to be crystal clear on exactly how much you'll be paying each month and when it's due.
Okay.
Then there's the security deposit,
All right.
which is usually a pretty substantial 2 months rent.
2 months rent up front.
Yeah, that's pretty standard in Hong Kong.
Wow. Is that for everybody?
Pretty much everyone, yeah.
I
It
wouldn't-
basically protects the landlord in case of damages to the property or any unpaid rent.
Oh, okay. So it's like a safeguard for them. Yeah. Okay, so that's the rent and the security deposit.
Right.
What else should we be watching out for?
Well, the renewal and termination clauses.
Okay.
Those are definitely important.
Yeah.
You want to understand under what conditions you can renew the lease if you want to stay longer,
Right.
and what the procedures are for ending the lease if you need to move out.
So lots to unpack there.
Lots to unpack.
And I bet all of this is laid out in pretty detailed legal language, huh?
It can be.
Yeah. But
That's why it's essential to read the entire agreement carefully before you sign anything.
Right.
If anything is unclear, don't hesitate to ask questions.
Okay.
And if you can, it's always a good idea to have someone with a bit of legal expertise take a look at it,
Right.
just to make sure you fully understand everything.
You had a second opinion.
Always a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Great advice. So what about the whole, like, who fixes what situation?
Yes, the maintenance responsibilities.
Like if the faucet starts leaking or
Yeah.
if the air conditioner breaks down, how do you know who's responsible for dealing with that?
That's where clarity in the tenancy agreement is key.
Okay.
It should explicitly state who handles things like maintenance and repairs,
Okay.
as well as who pays for utilities.
So basically, we need to make sure everything is spelled out
Upfront.
up front to avoid any surprises.
Exactly.
Okay, good to know. So we've covered the visa requirements, the tenancy agreement, and the importance of being super clear on those key clauses.
Right.
Now I think it's time to address the elephant in the room, the cost
The dreaded cost.
of renting in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
All right, deep breaths, everyone, because renting in Hong Kong is not exactly known for being cheap.
It's no secret.
And we've already talked about that hefty 2-month security deposit.
Right.
But what other upfront costs should we be prepared for?
Well, on top of the security deposit, you'll typically need to pay the first month's rent up front as well.
Okay.
So before you even get the keys to your new place, you're often looking at 3 months worth of rent.
3 months.
3 months worth of rent.
Wow, that's quite a financial hurdle to clear right off the bat.
It is, and it's something that many people,
Yeah.
especially newcomers, don't realize until they're already in the thick of the rental process.
Right.
So it's good to be prepared.
Yeah, so 3 months rent up front. What else do we need to factor in?
So there are those usual expenses like utility costs,
Okay.
which can vary depending on your usage, of course.
Right.
And then there are additional fees like stamp duty.
Stamp duty? What's that?
It's a government tax on rental agreements.
Oh, okay.
It's usually a small percentage of the total rent,
Okay.
and it's typically split between the tenant and the landlord.
So you pay half, the landlord pays half?
Typically. Yeah.
Okay, so there's stamp duty. And what about if we're using a real estate agent to help us find a place?
Right.
Are there any fees associated with that?
Yes, there usually are.
Okay.
Agency fees in Hong Kong are typically half a month's rent.
Half a month's rent.
Yeah. And it's something you'll need to pay up front.
Okay, so to recap, first month's rent, 2 months security deposit stamp duty, and possibly agency fees.
You got it.
It all adds up pretty quickly.
It does.
And it's also wise to ask up front
Yes.
whether government rates and management fees are included in the quoted rent,
Good point.
or if those are additional costs.
Yes. Ask those questions.
You don't want any budgeting surprises.
No surprises.
Great point. You definitely don't want to get hit with any unexpected expenses.
Nope.
All right, so we've got a pretty good grasp on the costs involved in renting in Hong Kong. It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
And not for the faint of heart.
But now that we've got that financial reality check out of the way, let's talk about the different types of rentals available. From what I've gathered, you've got short-term rentals,
Right.
which offer more flexibility,
Uh-huh.
and long-term rentals, which might give you a better deal on rent.
Yeah.
Which path you choose really depends on your individual circumstances and priorities.
Absolutely. And it's important to understand that the legal implications can also vary depending on whether you opt for a short-term or a long-term lease.
Right.
Long-term leases tend to offer more security and tenant rights under Hong Kong law.
Okay.
They're more tightly regulated, which can be beneficial in the long run.
Okay, so let's break down each option. Short-term rentals, what are the main advantages there?
So short-term rentals, they're perfect if you're not quite sure how long you'll be in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Maybe you're there for a specific project or you're just testing the waters.
Right.
Before making a bigger commitment, they offer a lot of flexibility in terms of duration,
Okay.
and they're often fully furnished and equipped,
Oh, this is nice.
which is super convenient if you're just arriving and don't want to deal with buying furniture and setting everything up.
Like, just bring your suitcase.
Exactly.
Oh.
You can find service apartments, Airbnbs, lots of options out there.
So short-term rentals sound great for convenience and flexibility, but I'm guessing there's a trade-off.
There is always a trade-off.
What's the downside?
The main downside is that they tend to be more expensive than long-term rentals. You're
Right.
paying for that convenience and flexibility.
All right.
And you might not have as much stability in terms of your living situation.
Okay. Makes sense. So let's talk about long-term rentals then. What are the key benefits there?
So with a long-term lease, you're usually committing for that standard 2-year period.
Yeah.
But you often get a more favorable monthly rent
Okay.
compared to a short-term rental.
Right.
And as you mentioned earlier, you also have more legal protection under Hong Kong law.
Right. Those tenant rights we talked about.
Exactly.
What else?
Another advantage is that you can usually find unfurnished options,
Okay.
which gives you more freedom to personalize your space
Right.
and make it truly feel like your own.
So it sounds like long-term rentals offer more stability, potentially better value for your money, and the opportunity to really create a space that reflects your style.
You got it.
But we're back to that 2-year commitment.
We are, but remember those break clauses we discussed?
Yeah.
Those can give you some wiggle room if your circumstances change unexpectedly.
Okay.
They essentially act as an escape hatch in a long-term lease.
Good to keep in mind.
Yes.
So we've got short-term, flexible, but pricier, and long-term, more stable, but a bigger commitment.
Right.
It seems like there's no right or wrong answer here.
It depends on your needs.
It really comes down to your individual needs and priorities.
Exactly. Figure out what matters most to you.
Right.
Flexibility, cost, stability.
Yeah.
And choose the option that best aligns with those priorities.
Great advice. Now, let's be honest.
Renting
anywhere new comes with its fair share of challenges.
It does.
But in a city as unique and fast-paced as Hong Kong,
Right.
there are some very specific hurdles you might encounter.
Sure.
What are some of the things we should be prepared for?
One thing that often trips up expats is the language barrier.
Okay.
While English is widely spoken in business settings, everyday interactions, including those with landlords, might be primarily in Cantonese.
So don't just assume everyone will be fluent in English.
Don't assume no,
Okay.
but don't let that discourage you.
Right.
There are ways to navigate this.
Okay.
You can work with a bilingual real estate agent,
Okay.
learn some basic Cantonese phrases, or even rely on translation apps.
Oh, yeah.
Technology can be a lifesaver in these situations.
Great tips. What else should we watch out for?
Verifying property ownership is crucial. Don't just take someone's word for it.
Okay.
Always ask for documentation that proves they actually own the property or have the right to lease it to you.
Do your due diligence.
Due diligence is key.
We don't want to fall victim to any rental scams.
Definitely not.
Okay. And finally, let's talk about potential disputes with landlords.
Right.
Disagreements can happen anywhere.
It happens.
So it's good to be prepared in case they arise.
Be prepared.
So if a disagreement does come up, what's the best way to handle it?
First and foremost, stay calm.
Okay.
Don't let emotions escalate the situation. Then communicate clearly and respectfully with your landlord,
Okay.
explaining your concerns and trying to find a mutually agreeable solution.
Makes sense. What if the landlord isn't being very cooperative?
That's where documentation comes in handy. Keep detailed records of all communication with your landlord, whether it's emails, text messages,
Oh, wow.
or even notes from phone conversations.
Wow. Okay, so every interaction,
As much as you can. Yeah.
track of it.
Keep a record.
And if you make any verbal agreements,
Right.
always follow up with a written confirmation.
Yes. Get it in writing.
So basically, a paper trail is our best friend in these situations.
It can be very helpful.
Good to know. So we've covered some potential challenges.
Yeah.
Any other words of wisdom before we move on to some expert tips?
Just remember, if things do escalate and you can't resolve a dispute on your own,
Yeah.
you can always seek mediation services or even legal advice.
Okay.
There are resources available to help you navigate these situations.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Exactly.
That's a good point. All right, let's shift gears and talk about how to make this whole renting experience in Hong Kong a little smoother.
All right, let's do it.
What are your top tips for a smooth and successful rental journey?
My top piece of advice is inspect the property thoroughly before you sign anything.
Okay.
Don't just rely on pictures or virtual tours. See it for yourself in person.
Yeah.
Test everything.
Great.
Make sure everything is in good working order.
Like what kind of things?
Check the water pressure, flush the toilets open, and close the windows. Make sure all the appliances are working.
Oh, wow. So it's all about getting hands-on
Hands-on, be thorough.
and being thorough.
It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of finding a place.
Right.
But taking the time for a thorough inspection can save you a lot of headaches later on.
Yeah. I love it. What else?
Don't be afraid to negotiate.
Good.
Rental terms in Hong Kong are not set in stone. You can discuss things like utilities fees, even the length of the lease. Especially if you're looking at a short-term rental, you might be able to negotiate a rent-free period
Oh, wow.
or a more flexible lease duration.
That's a great reminder. People often forget that negotiation is part of the game.
It is.
So don't be shy about advocating for yourself
Absolutely.
and trying to get the best possible deal.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And finally, embrace the power of online platforms.
Online platform.
Websites like spacious.com and GeoExpat are fantastic resources for apartment hunting in Hong Kong.
They are.
They offer a wide range of listings, photos, virtual tours, and you can easily filter by your preferences.
It's amazing what you can find online these days.
Those sites can be lifesavers. They can save you so much time and legwork compared to pounding the pavement.
Right.
and visiting every potential apartment in person.
Yeah.
But of course, as with any online platform, it's always a good idea to verify all the details independently.
Absolutely. Don't fall for any fake listings or shady landlords.
Right. Trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have visas tenancy agreements.
Right.
Those often daunting upfront costs.
Right.
The pros and cons of short-term versus long-term rentals. Some of the challenges you might face, and those expert tips to make the whole process smoother.
A good foundation.
Feeling overwhelmed?
It's a lot to take in.
Don't worry, we're just getting started.
Exactly.
We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
But when we come back, we'll be diving even deeper into the world of Hong Kong rentals.
Sounds good.
Exploring the emotional side of moving to a new city.
Okay.
Those all-important cultural nuances and much more.
I'm ready.
So grab a drink, stretch your legs, and we'll be right back with you.
See you in a bit.
Welcome back. We've tackled the practical side of renting in Hong Kong. The visas, the contracts, the money stuff.
Right, all the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, but moving to a new city, especially one as vibrant and kind of crazy as Hong Kong,
Yeah,
it's got to be an emotional roller coaster too.
absolutely. It is moving especially to a place as culturally different as Hong Kong. It can trigger a whole range of emotions. Excitement, of course, but also anxiety, anticipation, maybe even a bit of fear of the unknown.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So how do you manage all those feelings?
So I think setting realistic expectations is key.
Okay.
Hong Kong's an amazing city, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not a utopia.
Right.
There will be challenges, moments of frustration.
Yeah.
It's just part of the experience.
So go in with your eyes wide open.
Exactly. Embrace the fact that things won't always be smooth sailing.
Yeah. And have a plan for when things get rough.
Exactly. Having coping mechanisms in place for those inevitable bumps in the road is crucial.
Like what? Give us some practical strategies.
Okay, well, first off, building a support network is essential.
Okay.
Connect with other expats, join online forums, stay connected with friends and family back home.
Right.
Having people to talk to share your experiences with, can make a world of difference.
There's power in community for sure.
Absolutely, and I bet there are tons of expat groups and resources in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I would imagine. So what about just taking care of yourself?
Oh, self-care is so important.
Yeah.
Make time for activities that bring you joy, whether it's exploring those amazing hiking trails in the hills,
Right.
indulging in the city's incredible food scene, or simply taking some quiet time with a good book.
Okay, so realistic expectations, a strong support network, and prioritize self-care.
Those are the pillars,
Okay, those are the pillars for surviving in Hong Kong.
for sure.
But what about during that apartment hunt?
Oh, yeah, that can be stressful.
Yeah, when things are getting really intense.
Yeah.
Any quick tips for just staying sane?
Take breaks.
Okay.
It's easy to get sucked into that vortex of property listings and virtual tours.
Totally.
Step away from the screen regularly, go for a walk, get some fresh air. Remind yourself that this is just one piece of your Hong Kong adventure.
Yeah, get some perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture when you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed.
Totally. And it's okay to ask for help, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Lean on your support network, whether it's for practical advice or just a listening ear.
Great advice. Okay, so we've talked about the emotional side of moving to Hong Kong.
Right.
The feelings. Now let's dive into some of those cultural nuances and etiquette tips that can really make or break your experience.
All right, let's do it.
What are some of the unspoken rules we should be aware of?
Well, one of the first things you'll notice is the emphasis on respect and politeness in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I've heard that Hong Kongers are incredibly polite.
They are. It's deeply ingrained in their culture.
Okay.
Simple gestures like saying thank you and please go a long way in showing respect and be mindful of personal space.
Right.
Hong Kong is a densely populated city, so people value their privacy.
Makes sense. Any other cultural quirks?
Gift giving is quite common in Hong Kong, particularly in business settings. If you're invited to someone's home, it's considered polite to bring a small gift.
Oh.
Fruit, a box of chocolates, nothing extravagant.
Okay, good to know. What about dining etiquette?
Yes, the dinner table.
Yeah, any tips for navigating those potentially awkward moments?
It's considered polite to wait for the host to start eating before you dig in.
Okay.
And try to use your chopsticks properly.
Okay.
It's a sign of respect.
Right.
Don't worry, if you're not an expert, people appreciate the effort.
Chopstick skills, check.
Exactly.
Any other dining tips?
Sharing is a big part of Hong Kong's dining culture. Dishes are often served family style, so be prepared to pass plates around and sample a variety of flavors.
I love that.
It's a really fun and social way to experience the cuisine.
Yeah, and it's a great way to try a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
What about tipping? Is that customary in Hong Kong?
It's not as common as it is in some other countries,
Okay.
but it's always appreciated, especially in restaurants and for services like taxis.
Got it. So politeness, gift-giving, dining etiquette, tipping.
We're getting cultured.
We are getting a crash course in Hong Kong culture.
For sure.
Now let's talk transportation. Hong Kong has an incredible public transportation system, right?
It does the MTR, the city's subway system.
Yeah.
It's a marvel of efficiency. It's clean, affordable, and incredibly easy to navigate.
Okay.
It's definitely the best way to get around.
I've heard it's a breeze to use even for first-time visitors.
It is. Any tips for navigating the MTR?
Yeah. What should we know?
Get yourself an octopus card.
An octopus card.
It's a rechargeable, contactless card that you can use not only on the MTR,
Oh, wow.
but also on buses, trams, and even to make purchases at convenience stores.
Wow. Okay.
It's a must-have for anyone living in or visiting Hong Kong.
That sounds super convenient. What about taxis? Are they readily available?
Oh, absolutely. Taxis are plentiful.
Right.
But just be aware that traffic can be quite heavy,
Right.
especially during peak hours.
Okay. Good to know. So we've got the MTR taxis. Any other modes of transportation worth trying out?
Well, ferries are a fantastic way to experience the harbor and explore the outlying islands.
Okay.
And if you're feeling adventurous, hop on one of Hong Kong's iconic trams.
So the trams.
They're a bit slower, but they offer a charming and nostalgic way to see the city.
I love trams. Okay. Transportation options. Check.
Check.
Now let's talk safety.
Okay.
Is Hong Kong a safe city?
Hong Kong is generally considered a very safe city with a low crime rate.
Okay.
However, like any major metropolis, it's important to be aware of your surroundings and take common sense precautions.
So the usual big city smarts.
Exactly. Don't wander around alone late at night. Be mindful of your belongings, that kind of thing.
Right. And be wary of scams.
Yes. Especially in tourist areas. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Good advice. Okay. We've covered cultural nuances, transportation safety. Now let's shift gears and talk about the fun stuff.
All right, let's have some fun.
What are some absolute must-do activities for newcomers to Hong Kong?
There's so much to see and do.
I know. Hit us with your top recommendations.
Okay, for breathtaking views, a ride on the Peak Tram to Victoria Peak is a must. Or if you're feeling more energetic, hike up Lion Rock for a panoramic perspective of the city.
Those views sound incredible. What about shopping? I've heard Hong Kong is a shopper's paradise.
It is. From high-end designer boutiques to bustling street markets, you'll find anything and everything your heart desires.
Wow.
For a truly authentic Hong Kong experience, check out the Temple Street Night Market.
Yeah.
You'll find unique souvenirs and bargains galore.
Sounds like my kind of place. What about food?
Yeah, the food.
We touched on dining etiquette earlier, but what are some dishes we absolutely have to try?
Dim sum is a must.
Okay.
It's a Cantonese culinary tradition, these delicious bite-sized portions of savory and sweet treats.
Okay.
And you can't leave Hong Kong without trying char siu, the barbecued pork.
Char siu.
It's a Hong Kong staple.
Okay, I'm adding those to my list.
Good choices.
Any other culinary adventures?
Don't be afraid to explore the city's diverse neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find hidden culinary gems everywhere, from Michelin-starred restaurants to those hole-in-the-wall eateries. Hong Kong's food scene is a journey of endless discovery.
I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. Okay, views, shopping, food, checked.
Checked.
What about nightlife? Is Hong Kong a good place to let loose and have some fun?
Hong Kong's nightlife is legendary.
Yeah.
You'll find rooftop bars with stunning city views, underground clubs pulsing with energy.
Oh, wow.
There's something for everyone.
Okay, so whether you're a party animal or prefer a more laid-back vibe, Hong Kong's got you covered.
It does.
We've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
The emotional side of moving cultural insights, transportation safety, and even some of the best things to see and do in Hong Kong.
So much good stuff.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up this section?
Just remember, moving to a new city is an adventure. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the victories, and most importantly, have fun.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Hong Kong awaits with all its excitement and opportunities.
It does.
But hold on, we're not done yet.
Oh, there's more.
We've got one more part to this deep dive.
Okay.
We'll be back soon with some bonus tips and resources that'll give you that extra edge
All right.
in your Hong Kong rental journey.
Stay tuned.
Can't wait.
We're back for the final part of our Hong Kong rental deep dive. We've covered so much ground already, from legal stuff to cultural quirks.
And those emotional highs and lows of moving to a new city.
Yeah.
And, of course, some of the best things about Hong Kong.
Yeah. But before we send you off to find your dream apartment, we've got a few more tips up our sleeves.
A few more tricks to share.
Okay, I'm all ears. What bonus tips and resources do you have to help us seal the deal?
Well, let's talk about timing.
Okay.
Hong Kong's rental market is super fast-paced, so you have to be prepared to move quickly.
So no dilly-dallying. When's the best time of year to start looking?
If you want more negotiating power and maybe lower rents look during the off-season, that's usually May to August.
The summer months?
Yeah, it's hot and humid then, but you might get a better deal.
Trade-offs. What do I want more options? I don't mind a little competition. Then aim for peak season, September to April. That's when most expats arrive. You'll have more choices. But you got to be ready to act fast.
Okay, timing is key. What else should we be thinking about strategically?
Location, location, location.
Of course.
It's always important, but especially in Hong Kong. Each neighborhood has such a different personality.
Hong Kong Island versus Kowloon, for example.
Exactly. Hong Kong Island is all about business districts, high-end shopping, and those amazing harbor views.
Right.
Kowloon is more local, more down-to-earth, vibrant markets, traditional eateries, and the cost of living is a little more affordable.
So it's about finding the right neighborhood for your lifestyle and budget. What are some other neighborhoods we should check out?
If you want a mix of urban convenience and tranquility, look at mid-levels. It's got a cool, laid-back vibe.
Okay.
And Kennedy Town is up and coming. It's got a trendy, almost hipster feel.
Great suggestions. Okay, timing, location. Any other bonus tips to help us land the perfect place?
Here's a reality check. Be prepared to compromise.
Oh, yeah.
You're rarely going to find a place that ticks every single box. Prioritize your must-haves and be flexible on the nice-to-haves.
Don't get hung up on finding the perfect place. It might not exist.
Exactly. Focus on a place that meets your needs and that you can make feel like home.
And be patient.
Yes, patience is key in this process.
Yeah.
Finding an apartment in Hong Kong can be a journey.
Okay.
But don't give up. You'll find the right place.
Patience and positivity.
Exactly.
Essential tools for Hong Kong. Speaking of tools,
Great.
what about resources? Websites, apps, organizations? What do you recommend?
We already mentioned spacious.com and GeoExpat, but there are tons of others. AsiaExpat.com has classified ads and forums. Connect with other expats there.
Okay.
And gohome.com.hk is easy to use with lots of listings.
Great. What if I need some extra guidance? Are there relocation services in Hong Kong?
There are. They can be super helpful. Companies like Santa Fe Relocation and Crown Relocations, they can help you find an apartment and settle into the city. Really useful if you're moving from overseas.
Relocation services noted. Anything else we shouldn't overlook?
Social media.
Oh, yeah.
So many Facebook groups for expats in Hong Kong. Join those groups, connect with people, tap into that collective wisdom.
Right, they've been there, done that.
Exactly. And don't forget about official sources.
Okay.
The Hong Kong government website has tons of information on everything, visas, tenant rights, you name it.
Okay, so online platforms, relocation services, social media, and government resources, we are ready.
Well prepared. Remember, knowledge is power, especially in Hong Kong.
Absolutely. So to everyone out there, get ready to explore Hong Kong. It's an incredible city. You won't regret it.
It's an amazing place.
Well, there you have it. We've covered everything you need to know about renting in Hong Kong. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.